Welcome to Conversations at the Summit, a podcast brought to you by Climb UK. On this episode, we're going to be looking at when successful businesses decide to give back.
Oh, essentially, it saved my life. I was at a point in my life where I wanted to die. I didn't know what my next move would be. Been working alongside Andy this last few years it saved my life.
And the more businesses we can convince to support our service users into employment, the better it is. Help us take someone on your staff, on your payroll, who will come to you having had a chaotic lifestyle. You treat them like it's the first job because they haven't worked for so long.
This means so much to me because, I'm helping people, and I love it.
We're joined to talk about this by the Chief Executive of the Howarth Foundation, Andy Howarth, it is what it says on the tin, and Carl Hedley, who's been helped by the foundation and now works for them as a support worker. So, Andy, if we can start with you, it's got your name on the tin. What is the Howarth Foundation?
The Howarth Foundation is a registered charity set up in 2015, but registered with the Charities Commission in 2017, primarily to help what we refer to as the hidden homeless back into employment. The hidden homeless being those that are not necessarily street homeless anymore, but have moved on from that and progressed into either recovery or in supported housing, in those that are fleeing domestic violence, those in unsuitable accommodation, and people sofa surfing, and those without a roof to call their own, basically. And what we try and do is work with them and try and find employment for them once they're ready to take that next step. Ideally, we look to try and find a role that they specifically want. It's usually low-level entry employment, but nonetheless, it's the first step on the ladder to getting back into society, which is incredibly important.
Carl, we'll go into more depth about your story in a moment, but in a nutshell, what's the Howarth Foundation done for you, do you think?
Oh, essentially, it saved my life. I was at a point in my life where I wanted to die. I didn't know what my next move would be. Been working alongside Andy this last few years it saved my life.
So when did you two first come across each other?
Over 4 years ago now. Yeah. I'd recently relapsed, and Andy were opening a shop in Armley, second-hand charity shop there, very boutiquey, beautiful shop, turned out to be. But I went to go volunteer there and just see if I could stop using and stop drinking, and so that's how we first came to meet each other.
It's been quite a long journey for the pair of you.
It's been challenging for both of us. There are times when we've not seen eye to eye. We are from different backgrounds, different walks of life. I'm learning as much as Carl is learning. I've only been working with the homeless for the last 10 years. So it's been very much a learning curve for me as well. So each day is a school day for me, without any doubt. And Carl's been instrumental in helping me in that, to understand the pains that people who are in recovery particularly go through, the pains that the homeless go through, the pains that people who are living on the street essentially go through. And of course, Carl was living on the street just before we were introduced. Carl was introduced to us by a recovery program, and he'd just about got himself on the straight and narrow. But as always happens, he was given a flat in a high-rise block in Leeds and basically left to his own devices. And sadly, having done a 12-month recovery program and come out with a clean sheet, within 3 days, I believe it was it? 2 days, he relapsed. Which that was, Carl will tell himself, but this is why we set this charity up, because we found that there's lots and lots of fantastic agencies in Leeds working with the street homeless, but there's very few, if any, looking at those that are ready to go back into work. So people get just forgotten a little bit. It's as though we've done our bit here. We've got them through recovery. They're now clean and sober. They've got a flat. They've got a house. Job done. But that's not the end of it, because Carl struggled with things like the gas meters and the electric meters, and how do you go shopping? What do you do? And within 2 days he relapsed. So, and that's what happened. So when we looked at this, it seemed to be a common trait. So we said, let's look at how we can offer that next step and say to people, look, when you're ready, when you've come through your recovery process, let's talk about what you really want to do. And let's see if we can find you a role, a job, training maybe, voluntary work, but get you back into society, working with ordinary people who just get up every day as normal and who don't have the same problems as you, but for you to integrate and get your self-esteem back. And that's what we tried to do.
So how long had you had the drug problem?
Oh, for years. Drugs and drink, it went on for years. And not only the drugs and the alcohol, it were mental health, really poor mental health, but not recognising that as well. I go to doctors many times and say, fix me, give me a tablet to make me better. And when they offered me medication to just do just that, I then went, I don't want that. I expected someone to wave a magic wand and make me better. And it were never going to happen. To me, this is about hard work, having decent people around you, and grit and determination to get through it. And it's not an easy path. It's really not an easy path. But when you've got people that believe in you, you've got to start believing in yourself. And I think once you do, you can then move forward. And for all them years, I never believed in myself. So when someone came along and says, well, I believe in you, at first it's like, I don't know about this. But when this person is consistently saying, I believe in you, you're like, there might be a little something in this. And that's when I knew I could move forward, because I knew I had that person there to help me. But this went on for years, my whole life. And it wasn't just drugs and drink, I were addicted to many things over my entire life. I could never find a balance with anything. And now I'm getting there,
Still working hard.
I'm still working really, really hard on everything I do. And I say this to people now, one wrong move today, and it doesn't have to be drink or drugs, it could be a wrong move in another area. It can be the start of my demise again. So I've got to be really careful in every move I make today. Since coming back into recovery, I've set myself targets, achievable targets, but sometimes when I've not achieved those targets, I've not beat myself up too much, and I just go again. First thing for me was stop drinking, stop taking drugs. That were the number one priority. As soon as I've done that, what do I know is going to work for me next? We'll get back into employment, getting back around decent people that are doing this day in, day out, living a normal life, productive life, not being a hindrance to society. So that was my next move, getting in touch with Andy and saying, look, I'm doing okay here. I don't know if this is going to last. I just didn't know, but I'm doing all right. So we had that conversation about, let's see where you go with this. And obviously, ultimately, it led to employment in the end. I next thought, well, I need to concentrate on my health now. I've gone years of not concentrating on my health. I know I'm at a certain size, I'm overweight. So I've started that journey this year. Just lost over 2 stone at the moment since January. So I'm doing okay with that. But yet again, I know that if I make one wrong move, that all goes again. And if that goes, the next thing goes, and the next thing goes. So I'm really conscious now of doing the right things and following that right path.
Andy, if I can just wheel back a little bit, you have set up a successful business in Howarth. What is Howarth's? How did it come about?
Howarth's is primarily a law firm or a company. Helen, my wife, and I set it up in 2003 when I'd finished my previous career.
Which was?
I was a police officer for 30 years. I went back to school when I was 42 and did my A-levels, which was great, sitting in a class of 19-year-olds and trying to talk about the Beatles, and they're saying it was the Beatles, and we were poles apart. But I did my A-levels, and I thought, well, do you know what? They were difficult, but I went back then to Leeds Met, as it was then. I got accepted and did my LLB and did an honours degree and got through that. Don't ask me how. Pretty much a steep hill, downhill slope and wind behind me, but we got there. We got there in the end, and I got a law degree. I wasn't particularly happy at my last few years in the police service. And I thought to myself that, my last couple of years, and I thought to myself, there's got to be a better way of dealing with people than I've just experienced. Don't get me wrong, I love my 30 years in the police and I'm very proud to have been there. But the management style wasn't mine. And I fell in love a little bit with employment law, of all things. I'd done criminal law for 30 years. And employment law really intrigued me. So I got involved in that. And I had a friend at the time who was a barrister. He's sadly passed away now. And we discussed it. And I said, you know what? I've had a job offered teaching A-level law. I've had a job offered at a firm of solicitors as a trainee solicitor. But I said, I don't want to do either of those. I don't know why. I just don't want to do them. They don't appeal to me. What I really want to do is set my own business up. And we were sat in our back garden at the time with a bottle of something or other, Pinot Grigio. And my wife sort of came out and said, what are you two scheming at? And I said, I've just come up with this. Richard and I and Pinot have come up with this great idea that I'll set up my own business on Monday. And it sounded really exciting at that time. It was like, whoa. The next morning you wake up and you think, did I really commit myself to that? So Monday morning I said to Helen, right, I'm going to do it. I'm going to set my own business up. One of the things Helen was really concerned about, she said, without putting a damper on your idea, you can't add up. You're useless with money. You haven't a clue what comes in and out of this house. So how on earth are you going to run a business? She was working at a bank at the time. And I said, well, that's where you come in. Obviously, I'll come home and you can do my books. She said, I'm not doing that. I'll come and work with you. And I thought, oh, great. So she took 3-month unpaid leave, which turned into 6 months, which turned into 7 years, until eventually she realised that she couldn't work with me and retired. And I get that. She'd have had enough. It's been great, but thank you, goodbye. So I gave her a gold watch and off she went, and she went happily into retirement. It was a real struggle to begin with no idea what we were doing, but that was probably a good thing because I didn't know the pitfalls that were ahead of me. I didn't know the obstacles. So I went into it quite blindly. I did seek a lot of advice from other businessmen, but I went into it very blind and very naively, but with lots of enthusiasm and excitement, and nothing seemed to be...
And a hell of a lot of drive. I mean, to do what you did while being a police officer, it's not exactly an easy job. No, there's clearly a heck of a drive in there.
Yeah, it was something... I wanted to really achieve something in my life. I had a bit of a rough start in my own life in that my father died when I was 10, and I had a very traumatic time from being 10 to 15, 16, 17 until I left home. I had bouts of homelessness myself, not even realising I was homeless, particularly when I was in the police service. I was just literally sofa surfing with pals, going to different houses. And it wasn't until one of the people that I was living with at the time met their future husband and said, I think you're going to have to go. And I'm like, where? Where do I go? I ain't got anywhere. And that's when it dawned on me, actually, I am homeless. So I went to the pub, as blokes usually do, and talking to a pal of mine and said, do you know anywhere that has any flats or anywhere I can live? Because I've nowhere to go. So I lived with him for a few weeks, and then he got fed up with me. But the beauty of this, Tanya, is that when I did eventually get my own flat, which took 2 years, it was the absolute dream of my life. It was empty. There was no furniture. It was a new flat, but it was mine. And that feeling I can never forget. And the beauty of being a sponger and living on other people's sofas is they furnished it for me just so I won't go back. It were like, do you know, you can have my sofa, you can have my sideboard, whatever you want, but don't come back. So my house was furnished, my flat was furnished. And so I knew about the feeling of homelessness and not having any family or anybody to rely upon. So when we set the business up, we worked really hard, and it was a slog. And there were times when I thought, why have I done this? You know, when I've got my visas were maxed out, we were overdrawn, and we were thinking, where's the next penny coming from? I had 2 kids, one at university, one in school. But it was still fun, and I don't know why really, it shouldn't have been. But I still loved every minute of it, and getting out there and the challenge of a day. I remember tramping around, you've got me going now, I'm sorry. I remember tramping around Manchester one really horrible wet day, and knocking on doors of businesses and trying to sell them this concept. And it was all like, how will it work? And I thought, okay. And I went back and met my wife in a pub. She'd come over on the train as well. And we had a meal, and she said, how have you gone on? I said, fantastic. I've only had 11 doors shut in my face today. It could have been 12, but the rain put me off, so I've come here. And she said, so what are you going to do? I said, we'll start in Leeds tomorrow and see how we go on there. And we eventually we got our first client, and it snowballed from there. And suddenly we thought, well, actually, there's something in this. We can do it.
Can I just, Carl, when you're listening to Andy's story, how inspiring is that for you? And how helpful is that for you?
I love it. I absolutely love it. I love seeing his drive. I love seeing his passion. And, he wasn't meant to succeed, were he, all them doors shut in your face. Now, as I'm hearing him saying that, I'm thinking now of my own challenges at work and, them doors getting shut in your face. And what Andy's just telling me there is you keep going. It doesn't matter how many doors are shut on you, because one will open eventually. So yeah, it's about the drive to keep going, isn't it?
It did. And that one client that believed in me, as I believed in Carl, it was a big business, and he believed in me, did the CEO. And the story is that I ran a series of seminars. I hired a room in a local mill, and I wrote all these letters to lots and lots of people, businesses, and said, come along to this seminar, and I will teach you the Employment Act and the Dispute Resolution Act, which has just come into force in 2002. I'd never heard of it before. So I read it the night before and remembered a lot of it and presented this seminar. And at the end of it, one guy said to me, he rang me and he said, will you answer me one question? And I said, yeah. He said, did you blag that seminar? I said, oh, absolutely. I said, I hadn't a clue what I was on about. And he said, I thought so. He said, come and see me. So I went and he said, I love your honesty. I love your openness. I'd like you to do my HR and employment law. And I said, really? He says, absolutely. He says, that's what I'm going to pay you. No more, no less. Don't argue. If you don't want it, clear off. So I looked, it was only a few quid. And I said, yeah, I'll do. So I signed it. And he said, out of curiosity, how many clients have you got? I said, one, you. And he said, you cheeky so-and-so, how dare you? And that was 20 years ago, and there's still clients now. So from there, it snowballed and snowballed.
So you set this business up. It starts to snowball. It becomes a very successful business. At what point do you think I'm going to add a foundation into that? You can see why. You can see where the passion for it is from your own story. But, you've already had a career. You've already got your A-levels, your degree. Why add a foundation on top of it?
Well, my eldest son, I have 2 sons, Gavin and Chris, and my youngest son's very entrepreneurial, and he very much an entrepreneur, and he's out there running businesses similar to this. So Gav qualified as a solicitor and worked with a big firm in Leeds, but he was very much wanting to enter the business world. So he rang me one day and said, Dad, can I come and work with you? And I said, God, I've got enough with your mother. You're not coming as well. This can be a real chew. Just want a bit of peace and quiet. But he decided he was going to come. It was very clear that he's a very clever lad. And he was knocking on my door every month. Dad, I want to take over. Dad, I want to take over. And we had a lot of door slamming and, I'll tell you when you're ready. And, you're not ready yet. And off he'd go again and come back and here we go again. Dad, I'm ready to take over. No, you're not. So this went on for a few years. And then I watched him grow, develop and mature. And I thought, wow, this kid's something special. He really is. So one day he said, I said, come in now. Yeah, make me an offer because, I'm not giving you it. Nothing in life's for free, so you pay for it. So his face went down a little bit. And I said, I'm sure we can work something out, but that's fair to me and fair to you. So we went through the legal process and Gavin bought me out. But I said, look, before you we signed this deal, you've got to let me find something else to do because I'm not ready to retire. And it was, this sounds a bit of a sob story, but we were sat outside Camden Market, Helen and I, one horrible rainy day, and a young guy shuffled past. It was difficult to tell whether he was young or old. He was so dishevelled and long matted hair and a mucky old coat, and his feet were size 7, his shoes were size 12, and I thought, and he shuffled past us, and I said, nobody in this day and age should live like that. And I've got 2 sons of me. So he could have been my kid. He's somebody's kid, and you shouldn't be walking about like that in this day and age. It's horrible. And for the life of me, I couldn't settle that day. It ate away at me, and in fact, I had a little weep, and I thought, this can't be in this day and age. And Helen said, why don't you do something about it? And I said, like, what? What can I do? She said, well, you're always doing something. Find something to do and see if you... And I thought, you know what? I can remember what it was like when I realised I was homeless. I didn't get as far as Carl had been pushed into, or this poor kid. But it was certainly not a nice feeling to know you'd nowhere to live and you hadn't got a roof to call your own. So I went back and I said to Gav, right, I've decided what I'm going to do. I'm going to set up a charity. And everybody went, oh, no, this is going to be fun. So I worked really hard at convincing the Charity Commission that it was viable, and eventually they agreed, and we became a registered charity. We went round again knocking on doors, saying to people, look, this is what we want to do. And then that grew until there are now sort of 4 of us, and last year we got 15 people back into employment. But the knock-on effect for those 15 people is the families as well. It's the mums, the dads, the brothers, the sisters. It's more than 15. And that's so satisfying. We have our setbacks, but by and large, so that was why I set the charity up, and it became so passionate, and it's such a passion to me that there's how, and people, my pals keep saying, why do you retire? Why do you pack in? I said, and do what? What, play golf? And the plight of the homeless really struck a chord within me, and I said, look, I might not be able to do a great deal, but if we can get one person back, we're not qualified to deal with people in Carl's position that have been afflicted by this horrible disease of addiction, and it is a disease. It's horrible. I've had cancer for the last 6 years. I've just got over it. I've just got the all clear last August.
Congratulations.
Thanks, cheers, thanks. I almost forgot about it. It was sort of a passing thing when I went for my test. Said, you're clear now. I'm like, yeah, cheers, can I get on with it now? Which was funny, because when they told me I got cancer, it was like, well, let's not make a big deal of it. Let's just crack on. It'll be all right. Don't upset the kids. Just let's crack on. But Carl's disease is exactly the same. His is a disease of the mind. Mine was a disease of the body. And it took me 6 years to get through this disease with the help of my lovely kids and my wonderful wife. We fought it together. And when you say you fight it, you just don't give in to it. It's not fighting. You just don't lay down and die. It's as simple as. I had lots of good surgeons, operations, chemo and all that sort of stuff. But Carl, the disease of addiction is far more punishing in many ways than cancer, because it's incurable. He has to fight it every day. Every day has to sit down, and many like Carl have to sit down and say, this is just another day. I've got to get through today. And if I get through today and wake up sober tomorrow, job done. But then he starts again. And that's for the rest of your life.
So now, Carl, you're working for the foundation that has helped you to rebuild your life. What's a day like for you? What does your job entail?
It's getting out and meeting the clients, getting referrals through the door, going out and finding them referrals first, and when they come through, go out and meet the clients and see where we can help them, really, see what their next move's going to be.
And how important is it that you understand their story? Because it's your story. Everybody's story is a different one, but you understand a huge amount of what they've been through. Yeah,
totally, and it is. We're going on a journey together. We've got a client come on board recently, and when he was telling me, I always like to find out a bit about him and tell me about yourself. And his story was my story. Everything what he said was me all over. And I was just sat there, everything what he was saying to me, I was, oh, God, that was me. God, that was me. So I understand where people are coming from, where they've been, and more than anything, it's showing them where they can potentially go if they're willing to put some hard work in. Continue on the path what you're doing now, and let's help you progress. You don't have, recently I went to a homeless shelter in Bradford. These are people that are street homeless, and And I got talking to a lady there, and I'm sat there in pretty decent clothes, and I'm doing all right. I'm presenting well. I got talking to a lady behind me who were street homeless, and I explained to her that I was where you were. It wasn't that long ago I were in the same boat as you, and keep going. Just keep going, because you can do it. We can all do it. It is hard work.
And presumably you're also going into businesses, because charities need money to run it, and
Definitely.
you're having to tell your own story.
Yep.
How difficult is that, and what reaction are you getting?
It's not difficult anymore, if I'm honest with you. I feel it's necessary, because it's giving people a better understanding of the potential client base what we have, and they're not all like me. We do have clients that suffer from mental health or just falling on hard times, and people do. We do have a lot of people that have got addiction problems and stuff. I think the reaction what I'm getting from business people, business owners and such, I think a bit of disbelief sometimes, like, oh, you really went through that? I really did, and more. I ain't got enough time to tell you it all. And a lot of our clients have been through similar stuff, similar things, but with your help and with our help, we can try and help this person progress in their life.
And how important is Carl to what you're doing?
Oh, immensely. I'm good at theory. I'm relatively good at selling the product, the service, but I haven't got the lived experience that Carl has. And I can't tell it from the heart what it's like to live in a cardboard box at the side of Wilco's. What it Wilco? Matalan. I can't describe to someone what it's like living in a cardboard box, not knowing where your next meal's coming from. And the daily struggles that Carl had. I saw Carl struggle every day with his addiction when he was still using. And one of the biggest problems with addiction is nothing will come between the addict and the next fix, no matter what you say, no matter what you do. So it was a question of me biding my time with Carl and saying, look, when you're ready, come and give me a shout and see what we can do. And Carl made the decision that he couldn't go on like this anymore, because when you get to a certain age, it's either you go into recovery, you kick the habit or try and kick it, or work hard to try and kick it, or you die. There's no other alternatives. It's as simple as that. So Carl made that decision, and now he's able to give that lived experience, whilst I can go into businesses and explain what we do. And my presentation is almost, it's not salesy, but it's certainly not as emotional as Carl's. But I can wheel Carl on and say, okay, now listen to somebody who's actually been there, done it, ridden it. And if we can come, and businesses are fantastic with us, they really are. And the more businesses we can convince to support our service users into employment, the better it is. And the businesses understand Carl a lot more. And once they hear that heart-wrenching story, it's a lot easier for me to make the sale, if you like. And it is a sale. It's please come on board, help us, take someone on your staff, on your payroll, who will come to you having had a chaotic lifestyle. They've got loads of baggage. There will be lots of bumps in the road. And you as the MD or the CEO, whatever you might be, need to take ownership of this individual and look after them. Treat them like they were an apprentice, treat them like, it doesn't matter what age they are, you treat them like it's the first job, because they haven't worked for so long. Getting up and going to work at 9 o'clock is like, do I have to be there every morning at 9? Yeah, afraid so. Okay.
And Carl, do you sometimes walk past that street corner where you lived in a box?
It's on the end of my ex-wife's street.
Right.
So I see it quite regularly, several times a week when I'm going to see my daughter or taking my daughter home from work. Every time, honestly, every time I see it, I'm reminded of where I've been and not just where I've been, but where I am now, and the time frame that's lapsed since.
But you've got a daughter, which gives you the why, I guess, doesn't it, to make sure you don't go back there?
I'll tell you the why now, because if I'm brutally honest, and I always am, my kids didn't matter in my addiction. Not because I didn't care, it's because the drugs and the drink came first. That's the honest truth. So it's not about having my kids now. I've got 2 children. It's not about having my grandkids now, which I absolutely adore. It's about life. I now want to live. I want to live. That's I didn't want to live for so long, and now I do. So the reason to keep going for me now is because I want to be part of life and I want to live.
Have you allowed yourself to be proud of what you've done in the last couple of years? Or does that go to Andy, who clearly is proud of you?
Yeah, he is. And he tells me this regularly, that I need to let go of a lot of the past and just think about how well I've done and such. And these moments where I think that were good. You know, there's some really good moments. But it's difficult when you've had a life like I had for a lot of years, and you upset a lot of people and you let a lot of people down, including my children. And it's not great for me to be able to sit here and say my kids didn't matter. Because obviously I've always loved my kids, but the drugs and drink became too powerful and it overtook everything about me. There's definitely moments where I feel proud, but there's more to come now. There's definitely more to come, which I've got a future. You know, I ain't got a job, I've got a future.
And Carl, that future is about helping people like you, isn't it? I mean, and it must give you a huge amount of satisfaction to help the next person and the next person and give them a chance of the future that you talk about.
It definitely does, Tanya. It's, you know, my future now, it's not about helping people who are suffered from addiction. It's not about that for me. It's about helping people progress in life no matter what. That were part of my journey, and it's part of a lot of our clients' journey. But that's not my aim personally. My aim personally is to, when people are ready to progress, they deserve a chance. So why not give them one? And it's a beautiful thing to watch somebody progress in their life after the, you know, the torment, the horrible things that have happened in their life. It's a beautiful thing to watch them progress and to see it happening in front of you. And obviously it's terrible to see someone's demise, as people saw mine over the years. But to see someone progress, it's beautiful, and we've had a lot of beautiful moments doing this. And there's many more to come, and there'll be many more upsets as well. I'm aware of that. It's definitely worthwhile getting out of bed. You know, I were thinking of where would I like to be? I'd like to be here doing what I'm doing. You know, if I were to go to another job right now, it wouldn't mean up to me. This means so much to me because, yeah, I'm helping people, and I love it.
Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for sharing your time. If you want to know a bit more about the Howarth Foundation, just Google them, look them up. The work they do is fantastic. Thank you for joining us for Conversations at the Summit.